Let me see, where is that? Final Cut Pro TV Live. That's weird. Must have had a different one. Anyway, Final Cut Pro TV Live. We are, let me just see if we're live here. I think we are. Let me see what it sounds like. Just checking the audio. All right, that seems to be working. I'm going to do a little bit of maintenance. Give me 5 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that, and we'll be back, and we're going to talk about any Final Cut Pro news. I don't know if anything's happening. Actually, I don't know if anything's happening right now, but we'll talk about if there is anything happening. We're going to talk about what's going on possibly with NAB and also the FCP Creative Summit. Be back in a few minutes.
Is not in service at this time.
Hey everyone, how are we all doing out there? This is Richard Taylor. I'm Final Cut Pro TV Live. FCP TV Live. Let's see something. Why didn't I find flying? Weird. Let me just pull this up. I'm not sure. Doing this on the fly. Weird. Now my mouse isn't working. Connection lost. Oh, that. Hold on 1 second. Just gonna do this live. Just doing this one title. And we're going to do a background. Looks like that. And here we go. So now we have it. Let me see. There it is. That's what I was working on. I wanted to get that working. For today, FCP TV Live. That's what we're doing. What are we going to talk about? Is there much going on in the world of Final Cut Pro? Not really. We had a couple updates. We had one right after or right before the WWDC keynote, 10.5.3, and then we had 10.5.4 3 weeks later, which is an all-time record. That is an all-time record. How's it going, Richard? Matthew Pate? Eric Emmerich says NAB will cancel, in my opinion. We're going to talk all about that. Things have changed since July the 1st. In Maryland, there was a state of emergency that lasted until July the 1st, and then it ended on July the 1st. So I'm not sure what's going on. Actually, the governor is making an announcement today what's going on in the state. We'll see what's going on. We have a very high inoculation rate in Maryland, so we should be okay. Maybe they might change something going indoors, which is what's the problem is with NAB. I mean, NAB is one of the biggest places you can be with people from all over the world inside. Now, they have very high roofs. It isn't like having a low roof and everything doesn't go anywhere. They have very high ceilings, so things can go up. They don't necessarily congregate around. But they changed. So first, a couple months ago, NAB says you're going to have to wear masks inside the convention center. Then they said, per CDC guidelines, CDC keeps going back and forth, you don't need masks inside in Nevada. Now they're going back to recommending masks again. So we'll see. I mean, that's a consideration. I probably, at this point, if I had to decide today, I would say I'm not going to NAB, whether they have it or not. But that's not all we're going to talk about. We have some other things to talk about. So here's the NAB webpage, nabshow.com, as you can see. And they're still saying October 9th to the 13th, 2021, book a hotel. Obviously, that's in person. They're saying, as of today, they're saying it's still on, it's so on. Learn more about the show. Let's click on that link. Unrivaled event for content professionals in media and entertainment. So October's NAB show will be the most significant in-person media and entertainment event of 2021. If it happens. If it happens. If they don't get the numbers up of attendees, this is my suspicion. If they don't keep the numbers up of attendees for the NAB convention, and I have a feeling that, well, common sense says they're probably down because of COVID. So they're probably down. Now they're having, a little bit of a spike upwards. So I think the number is going to continue to go down. So, and then also the attendees, the people, the exhibitors. If people aren't coming, the exhibitors are going to start falling like dominoes. It's a possibility. Now, if something turns around in the next month or so, next couple of weeks or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it might survive, but it certainly is going to be less than it has been in the past, don't you think? I think so. It's going to be less than it has been in the past, numbers-wise. I think they've already scaled back where the floors. I don't think, like, for example, Black Magic used to be at the South Hall, lower South Hall. Well, they're not there anymore. As of right now, they're somewhere else. I'm somewhere else in the South Hall or North Hall. So they've already condensed the area at the convention center where the exhibitors are going to be. They've already done that. It's not as big as it was, not as many halls and things. So if things don't improve, and I'd say improve dramatically in the next week or two, I doubt that NAB is going to happen in person. I mean, originally Future Media Concepts said they had 108 in-person sessions at NAB. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be happening. I wish them luck, and I hope that it does survive, but it can't survive as a little NAB. It can't survive just as a mini NAB. If that's the case, they might as well wait until next spring, the spring of 2020. Look at this in my backyard. I have to mow grass. You can't tell from this picture because it's up too high, but I have to mow the grass this week. I usually mow it once a week, once every 10 days, something like that in the summertime. Here we are, back on track. So we have a question here, a few questions. Is it possible to export individual video files for ScreenFlow 10 to edit in Final Cut? Chance of Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Wait a minute. Chance of Final Cut Pro on the iPad. Slim with LumaFusion 3. LumaFusion 3 is fantastic. I think Final Cut Pro, I think a version of Final Cut Pro will eventually get to the iPad. There's a lot of people saying Final Cut Pro on the iPad is coming at WWDC 2021. I never believe that. It's too soon. They don't have the M1 chips in the Mac Pros and stuff in the iPad. Everything's too new. I didn't think it was coming in WWDC. Next year, we'll see. But it's going to have to be a scaled down version. It's not going to be a full version of Final Cut Pro running on the iPad. What are you going to do with all the plugins? I have 1,000 plugins, third-party plugins. You think they're all going to be ported over to the iPad in 6 months or a year? That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. That's just one of the things that are problematic. The other things that are problematic are the memory, the way that, let me turn this on. The way that the iPad, the iOS uses memory versus the way that Mac OS uses memory. Two different ways of using memory. But I don't really care if the iPad gets Final Cut Pro. I won't be using that probably. I would just be using LumaFusion, which is years ahead. If Final Cut Pro entered the iPad market, LumaFusion is years ahead of where Final Cut Pro would be, starting out at a version 1. So editing video on the iPad, LumaFusion, hands down, especially with the 3.0 that just came out. The version 3.0 just came out. They have a stabilizing plug-in for the iPad by our friends over at CoreMelt. Roger Bolton at CoreMelt developed an iPad OS plug-in, the first one. It's included in LumaFusion 3.0. They don't have a way they can make separate plugins yet for the iPad. Nobody's developed that yet, so it's included in the app itself. We will have to see how that goes. Let's go back to our web page here. So here's NAB show, schedule at a glance. There's no schedule. They have one person. Look, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, there's one event. NAB show floor, Monday, Tuesday. These are all the different things. So here's Saturday, one-on-one with Nick Cannon. Nothing else is scheduled. Sunday, NAB show kickoff, Jim Gaffigan live, which I would go to see that for sure if I go. Nothing else is on the agenda. Monday, one thing, NAB show welcome, featuring State of the Broadcast Industry Hall of Fame winning journalist Lester Holt. Once again, there's nothing else listed. This is why I'm not convinced that these links don't even work. They don't even work. It doesn't, it's at this point, 60 days out, 2 months out, nothing is here. I really like NAB. I really like the event, but it just doesn't seem realistic that it's going to happen. I don't see how it does. NAB show. So they can switch to a virtual event for NAB, but that's not the same thing, is it? A virtual event is not the same thing as in person. All these years, everybody comes in person. Everybody's coming in person. We had another comment here. I wish the Final Cut Pro team was as involved and in tune with their users and software as LumaFusion team. I love Final Cut. So part of that problem is Apple, is the Apple Corporation and the way they let the Final Cut Pro team interact with users, okay? The Final Cut Pro team everything they do has to be approved by Apple Corporate. So sometimes the Final Cut Pro team wants to do this and Apple Corporate says, you can't do that. Go back down to your labs and develop things. So the team itself, I'm sure they've wanted to do things in the past that Apple said, no, we're not going to let you do that. So don't just, the Final Cut Pro team is different than Apple in general, and I bet you there's multiple layers at Apple. We can wait for a call for a little later, but that's what my idea is. Do you think there will ever be OBS on the iPad or something from Apple? I don't know about OBS. It would not surprise me. I think once these developers start developing more for this M1 chip, which is what they're, the new Apple Silicon, it seems not as big a step to get to iOS, which also is running Apple Silicon chips, the same chips or the M1 chips so far, the iPad Pros. I certainly think that everybody's looking at that possibility. Once they get things ported over to the Mac, Apple Silicon Macs, then they might look at porting things over to the iPad. The iPad is going to be even more important than it is in the future going forward. Apple has iMovie on the iPad. They have other things. So what does Adobe have on the iPad? I don't even know. Do they have Photoshop? I thought they did at one point, had Photoshop on the iPad. But here's my opinion. Let me pull this up. Here's my screen. This is my screen. This is what I'm looking at while I'm doing this live stream. I don't have a big crew. I don't have 15 people running around like monkeys, running wires and doing microphones and light checks and all this kind. I don't have that. I don't even have 2 people. It's just me by myself. This is my screen that I'm looking at while the live broadcast is happening, right? The software that I'm using is called Ecamm Live, which I've been using for years for doing live streams when I'm at home, when I'm in my studio. I suspect that Ecamm Live is working on an iPad version. That's my suspicion. Let me see something here. Yeah, still there. That's my suspicion. There's a little bird there. Let me just pull this up. Let me just zoom in to see what's going on with those birds. Bird feeder. This is our Final Cut Pro TV Live HQ, the backyard. I have an 1.5 acres here. I have to keep trimmed up. To the right, let me see which way is my right. I'm going to guess. Nope, wrong. Over there to the right, all the way to the right is a garden, mainly a tomato garden. This is our back window. This whole area, this big area you're looking through is our plate glass window. This is really nice in the wintertime when we have a fireplace behind us and look outside and watch the snow at this version. So as far as, do you think there will ever be OBS on the iPad or something from Apple? Absolutely. I think eventually all the apps are going to be running on the iPad. I don't see exactly why not. I don't see why they wouldn't be. Once they, Tim Cook said WWDC 2020 that they're going to be making Intel versions of Mac OS for years, plural, to come. So if you take 2020, okay, 1 year would be 2021 would be now. Okay. So what is the one called now? I can't even remember. Something with an M. Probably come out this fall. That's year 1. That'll be available all the way until 2022. So in 2022 at WWDC, we'll see a new Mac OS. That'll come out in the fall of 2022, and that'll be available all the way until until 2023. So Mac OS is going to be running on Intel Macs. After that, we don't know exactly what's going on. At some point, Apple's going to switch over to just doing Apple Silicon years from now, when there's enough Apple Silicon Macs out there. I'm looking forward to getting a 16-inch MacBook Pro whenever the Apple wants to release it. They had the keywords in their keynote to upload to YouTube. They have M1X MacBook Pro in the keywords, but it didn't happen. I think they had it ready and something happened, supply issues, whatever, and they took it down. They didn't do it. I've seen lots of switching from Premiere to Final Cut videos recently, rather large YouTubers. Does Apple put out the amount of downloads for Final Cut in the past year? No. No, they have not. They haven't done it since 2018. Let me pull that up real quick. 2018. So one of the things that, where are we? Top. One of the things that Apple, well, let's go look at that for a second. I'll bring this up real quick. Here we go. So theater mode, I'm going to turn this actually on. Turn this one down. Is that down? That one's down. So let's turn this one on. This is from, let me see, what are we doing? Interview, system audio, I think I had to have that on. This is Apple from 2018. Now, Macworld and some other people said when Apple was reported to be coming to NAB 2021, they were saying Apple hasn't been here since 2011. No, wrong. Here's Apple at NAB in 2018. NAB presentation, 2018. Apple, look at this line. There's West Plate from Apple right there. Here's my friend Brad. He's on the show quite a bit.
That's probably good. Yeah, that's for the
Step out of the
best.
line.
I made sure of that.
It's probably for the best, but I'm going to try to sneak in anyway.
Okay.
Richard, got Oliver Peters right here.
Hey, Oliver, how you doing? Hi.
Oliver Peters.
Hired, long guy.
They said you guys can't come in.
Mark
so you
Bach.
just step out of line.
Roger Bolton from Cormelt. This is the line to get in to see Apple at NAB 2018. Now, in 2018, I could not take any video of the Apple presentation. They've requested nobody take any video or do any recordings. But I got a picture of the crowd coming in, hundreds of people. Completely packed house. I couldn't have got any more. This is NAB in the convention center. This is what Apple announced at 2018. 2.5 million seats. 2.5 million seats. Okay, that was an official Apple presentation at NAB at the convention center.
This is a cardinal
this
sin
down.
of EDM right here.
So Apple was at NAB officially as Apple. The Final Cut Pro team, the Pro Apps team was there. They did a presentation. 2017, they announced 2 million users. 2018, they announced 2.5 million users. They absolutely were at NAB in an official capacity in the convention center, not even off the convention center like in 2011 when they were at the Super Meet. So, Toby Oddjob says, I was there in the far back. You have to do a screen grab and show me a circle. Eric Emmerich says, I enjoyed the online summit last year. I presume, there it was Monterey. That's the new Mac OS. So I presume that, Eric, have you ever been to a live FCP Creative Summit in person? It's different. I enjoyed it too. Scott says, I did not see you there in that presentation, Toby. I was there as well that year, 2018. So in 2017, I actually streamed live the announcement of 2 million users from the Apple event with Apple presenting way in the distance. I was midway, but it's not like a high quality video where I have cameras and stuff. And the next year they requested that nobody do that because they're not set up for filming. The audio is not set up for filming, the lighting, etc. It's only for a live presentation. That presentation was open to the public. Anybody could get free tickets to go see it. Apple absolutely presented at NAB in the convention center in 2017 and 2018. Eric Emmerich says no, he has not been to a live one. As much as I like the virtual FCP Summit, and I understand why they're doing it, why they did it, in person is completely different. It's a whole other level of going to the summit. NAB is still saying they're going to have an in-person summit. I have my doubts if that's going to happen, the way things are headed, worldwide. So I go to the summit, not the summit. I go to NAB. I said someone, I meant NAB. I go to NAB to interview people, to talk to people, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to interview people if everybody's wearing a mask. I'm not going to do that. It's just you can't hear them. The audio's muffled. Sometimes you can't even recognize them. I'm not saying anything against the masks. What I'm saying is I'm not interested in filming people that have masks on. It's not an optimal way to do presentations, to interview people and stuff. So if they insist on having masks, which right now they are, if they have the event, I think the event's going to be canceled. They might switch to some virtual version, and then let's hope for spring of 2020 in March or April for NAB 2022. That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen. So we have some more comments here. I think you were there in the front, Scott. I was stuck by the door. That's actually a really good spot in case you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the presentation. There you go. So I've seen the Apple presentations 2017, 2018. 2019, there was no Apple presentation. LumaForge took over the Super Meet in 2019. They had an Apple person on stage there. I hope they have an actual event. Look forward to your interviews, Richard. Thank you. If I go to NAB, at this point, if I had to decide today, I'd say I'm not going to go because things are too uncertain. If something happens in the next couple of weeks and numbers start going down and they say we're going to have the live event and people don't have to wear masks on the show floor, your option. I would consider going because I not only interview people and I film live from the show floor as much as I can, etc. I get back to my hotel room and I put together clips that I've taken all day and I'll broadcast those as well. That's the way that works. So let's look at something else here. This is something else that's interesting. So I'm going to pull this graphic down. Oh, I know where it was. Let me go to here. Let me go here. Well, there's something else that's going on. Let's look at this for a second. This was not completely unexpected, but interesting to say the least. The 9 to 5 Mac. Apple updates Intel Mac Pro with 3 new graphic card modules. The Intel Mac Pro, Apple updated just last week 3 new graphic card modules. This is what they are, but they're very expensive. But the original ones were as well. This is for the Intel Mac Pro. They won't work in any, well, there's no M1 Mac with PCIe slots, so we don't have to worry about that. But this just happened last week, so there's been rumors that Apple is going to update the Mac Pro. The next update of the Mac Pro is going to be an Intel update. Very possibly. I don't see how they're going to do an M1 Mac Pro as big as the one I have, 2019, with 8 PCIe slots with the M1. I think they might do a scaled down version of the Mac Pro with the M1 initially. And if they do a new version of the Mac Pro with the new Intel Xeon chip, that'll last for years. I mean, this one has been the best Mac I've ever owned. Now, I do have 112 gigabytes of RAM in it, though. That's what I'm running right now. Eric says, everything is driven by COVID, and we don't know what it will do next. Lots of uncertainty. That's correct. So here's the thing about that situation. I'm not going to get too involved with discussing that because everybody's discussing it to the umpteenth level. We're in a lot better shape than we were a year ago. Okay? A lot better shape. We have a lot of people that are vaccinated. In Maryland, 75 to 80% of the adult population has been vaccinated. So we're much better shape than a year ago. I don't anticipate anything happening like it did a year ago, but, it is going up, so we have to be aware of that. Even though, I take precautions and stuff, but when I'm outside, I don't wear masks. If I was in a crowded place, maybe, but I don't typically. But that's an absolutely consideration. Everything is driven by COVID. That's correct. It was looking good. It was looking good. It was looking good. And then this new Delta variant comes in, and it's affecting mostly the unvaccinated. I don't want to discuss it. You guys get enough of that everywhere else. Anyone using brush? I don't know what that is. Is that spelled right, Eric? I'm not sure what that is. I got some new noise reduction, but I don't know what that is. So let's go over here. I'm going to go over here real quick. I'm going to find this tweet that I did a while back. Be patient with me just 1 second. Here we go. So let me see. Do I have a graphic one set up? Let me see if I have a graphic. Let me see if this works. I don't know if this is going to work or not. No, it's not. Okay. Let's go back to the web page then. So I put this up a couple weeks ago. Okay. Notice what it says. The summit is back as an in-person and online event. I was very excited to see that. This was a couple weeks back. As an in-person and online, a hybrid event. This is what it says now. The summit is back as an online event. The summit is back as an online event. So they removed the in-person over the last couple weeks. Now, the summit is going to be in November 2021. I don't know the dates yet. It would be probably the second or third week in November. It will not be around Thanksgiving, that's for sure. And so I'm guessing it'll be the second or third. But as of now, unless they change it back, now the summit has 90 days to change their mind. This is their website. I don't know if this is going to remain online. It certainly has to be easy for them, rather than booking hotels and booking travel and everything else. But it's not the same as in person. As much as I like the virtual summit last year, it was done very well, as I expect Future Media Concepts. It's not the same as being in-person event. Same as NAB. You can imagine the same as NAB. NAB before COVID, everybody was around. Yeah, you might get sick from breathing all the germs and stuff. I've been here 3 times. First thing I do is I start taking vitamins the week ahead of time, etc. I wash my hands constantly throughout the day. It's fantastic. You walk through the hall, you see vendors, you see new products. It's in person. It's no comparison to a virtual event. A virtual event is a step down from in person. I'm sure you all understand that, but it's better than nothing. Now, don't get me wrong. It's certainly better than nothing. NAB, not so much. The Creative Summit, yes. We still can get together in chat rooms and stuff. And they went to Apple Park last year. The Final Cut Pro team did a presentation, but you really couldn't tell. It looks like they were in just a generic office space. You didn't get to see the park, the spaceship campus. All you saw was their actual rooms with normal beige backing and stuff. You really couldn't tell you're at the spaceship campus. Maybe this year somebody will, if it's going to be virtual, will take us around the spaceship campus. I'd like to see that. Could Apple's support of LumaFusion hurt their future Final Cut considering they have a Mac version of LumaFusion? No. It's not hurting iPad sales, but I'm just thinking about the future. First off, Apple doesn't care about cannibalization. They've said it many times. We don't care if the iPad cannibalizes the MacBook. We don't care if the MacBook cannibalizes the iPad. They're both Apple products. They don't care if you buy one over the other. That doesn't bother them. I don't think Apple's support of LumaFusion can hurt the future of Final Cut. They have a Mac version of LumaFusion. They don't have a Mac version of LumaFusion. They do not. They have the iPad version running on Apple Silicon. The iPad version is running on iOS. Okay? Even though that version will run on Apple Silicon Macs, it is not a Mac OS version of LumaFusion. I'd like to see a Mac OS version of LumaFusion, to be honest with you. You know, people sometimes say, oh, I'm going to leave Premiere and go to Final Cut. I'm going to leave Avid and go to Final Cut, or the other way around. You can use two NLEs. You can use Final Cut and Avid. You can use Final Cut and Premiere. I use Final Cut as my primary. I use Blackmagic and LumaFusion as my secondary NLEs. I like Blackmagic Resolve a lot. I really, really like it. And LumaFusion, I've been using that for years as well. It's fantastic NLE. I just have more years in Final Cut, so that's what I gravitate towards. Eric says it's spelled correctly. Brush free. I've used Crumble Pop's noise reduction with some great success. I used Crumble Pop's noise reduction version 2 as well, and I really, really like it. I didn't update my, what is that company that has the noise reduction stuff? You know what I'm talking about. The one that doesn't work in Final Cut. I have it down here somewhere. Let me see if I can. Oh, no, that's not it. Where in the heck is it? RX. I have version 7. I'm not planning on updating to version 8. I use it in Logic, though. If I have audio that has an issue, I'll use it in Logic, and I really like what it does. I've recently used declipping on an audio file that was modulated more than I'd realized. It didn't quite sound that way here, but when I listened back online, it was modulated too much, so I used declip, and it worked very well. Brought the declipping down. So Tony says, I think we won't have an in-person event even if COVID numbers stay low. Many people are just fearful to travel or be in enclosed spaces with people. Yes to NAB, because NAB is people from all over the place. I don't know what travel restrictions they have. But yes for NAB. Thousands normally, I don't know what it would be this year, normally thousands and thousands and thousands of people, typically from Europe and China and Japan and all over the place inside. But even though the roofs are high, the ceilings are very high, so it's not like it's an 8-foot ceiling. You have very little control over what's going on there. People always complained with NAB about getting the NAB crud. They would get sick afterwards. They would get, not feel good for like days afterwards, coughs and congestion. I started taking vitamins a week before. I am compulsive about washing my hands. I wash my hands multiple times every day, every time I was there. Use the men's room, wash my hands. So that was before COVID. So I never got the crud. Never got it. I got some sore feet from walking so much, but never got the crud. So NAB, Tony, I agree with you. But the idea of this is, I'm not putting the show on, but the idea of the global summit is typically 100 to 150 people. And it's a controlled crowd. You know exactly who everybody is. You know where they came from. So it's much more of a controlled situation. Now, I think any live event numbers are going to be down from what they were in 2019. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I certainly understand the event going just virtual. I understand it's easier, safer, etc. But it's not the same. It is not the same as a live event. It is not the same as getting on a bus and going to see Apple at Apple campus. Physically, it is not the same as talking to the Final Cut Pro team in a room for an hour and a half, one-on-one, asking them questions, having them respond. It's not the same. Is it good? Yes. Am I glad they would have a virtual event rather than no event? Absolutely. But it's not the same as being in person. I'm sure you'll understand that. Thoughts on motion VFX coming to Resolve? Thumbs up, thumbs up. I like Resolve a lot. I expect a big update. I expect Final Cut Pro 10.6 to be a big update, and I expect it in 2021. In 2016, I went to the Final Cut Pro. In those days, it was the FCP Creative Summit, the first time. I was coming from the airport into a shuttle, going to the summit. I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. Apple had their event that day, just their regular fall event, introducing new hardware. They introduced a brand new 2016 MacBook Pro. While they introduced the 2016 MacBook Pro, they introduced a brand new version of Final Cut Pro 10.3. This was at an Apple event. This was not a Final Cut Pro event. This was not NAB, where it's all about broadcast audio and broadcast video. This was a plain old fall Apple event. 2016, new MacBook Pro, new version of Final Cut Pro, introduced at an Apple event. I'm thinking the same thing's going to happen this year. They're going to have a brand new 16-inch M1X, M2 MacBook Pro, and they're going to have a brand new version of Final Cut Pro, 10.6 or whatever they call it. This is what I'm thinking is going to happen again. History is going to repeat itself. So I don't see Apple introducing a new MacBook Pro without an Apple event. I can't see that happening. Just a blurb in their website? No, I can't see that. Final Cut Pro can come out at any time. They're not going to make an event for a new version of Final Cut Pro, but they could tag a new version of Final Cut Pro onto an Apple event like they did in 2016. Okay? That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. So we're going to have the new iPhones in September like we always do. October, it could be another Apple event. Sometimes they have one in November, a third one in November. Here is one thing I can almost guarantee you. Apple is not going into the Christmas buying season, the 2021 Christmas buying season, without a brand new MacBook Pro. The MacBook Pro that's out now, the M1 MacBook Pro, the 13-inch, came out in November 2020. That's not going to be the only MacBook Pro that goes into the Apple Christmas buying season this year. They absolutely are going to have a 16-inch, maybe a 14-inch MacBook Pro. We've been told multiple times from the Final Cut Pro team that the 16-inch MacBook Pro is hands down the most popular Mac that people use for editing with Final Cut Pro. I'm sure it's their number one. I'm sure it's their top Mac as far as sales go. I'm sure it outsells iMacs. I know it outsells the Mac Pro. I'm sure it outsells anything, the 16-inch. So that should be coming 2021 unless there's some kind of a major problem with supply or whatever. But I think they'll at least release it, and then maybe if they had a problem, they say, okay, well, you order it now, we'll send it to you as soon as it comes available. If they offer a full live event, I'd totally be there. So Toby, I keep calling you Tony, Toby, Odd Jobs. I'm not sure what your odd jobs are. Are you in England? If I recall, I thought you were in England, but I'm not positive. So you would come from England? Is England allowing travel? Is the United States allowing people coming from England, the UK right now? I don't know. I'm not planning on doing any traveling. But in any event, here's what I'm thinking now. I'm thinking that NAB is going to be either so scaled back that it's really not, to me, it's not worth going because there's no Final Cut Pro news. Because that's the reason I go to NAB is for Final Cut Pro events, Final Cut Pro news. I don't go there just to see Blackmagic, even though I like Blackmagic because I can watch them online. And I went to the Blackmagic event in 2019. I was there. I streamed it live. But it's either going to be scaled back so dramatically, or they're going to just go 100% virtual, or they're going to cancel. Now, if they cancel, I suspect they will immediately announce NAB 2022 in the spring back to the normal time slot, March or April 2022, and hope things are back to normal at that point. It was looking good earlier this year, wasn't it? So far, June, and then this Delta thing came in. Oh, you're all sick about hearing about the situation with the COVID. I don't even watch the news. I don't pay attention to the news. It's all, listen, all the news does, the news doesn't make any money unless they make controversy. They don't make money telling you about good things. They make money, clicks, they call it, by talking about controversial things and getting people riled up. Heck with all that. I don't even watch. I look at Twitter and see what the headlines are and go from there. All right, so what do you think? Let's look at this. This is my desktop, my coffee. I drink my coffee with cream and sugar, but it's very strong coffee. I use espresso beans. See those dark lines? That's the coffee that I use. Very strong and very potent. And I just lighten it up with cream. And I use Splenda, not sugar. Here, let's see what's out there. Nothing's out there right now. Nothing going on in the backyard. The birds are not there. Now, what the heck happened there? There we go. That should have been back to normal. So what do you think? What do you think? The people that are watching live, what do you think? NAB, yes or no? Let's talk about NAB first. Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's going to be scaled down? Do you think it's going to turn to virtual only? If it does, once again, I predict they're going to immediately announce NAB Spring 2022. And they'll shift everything over to there. I know companies that are not going to NAB that normally go. I don't know for a fact, but unless things improve dramatically quickly, and even then, like we had the numbers that even then people are going to be hesitant about going. So the numbers are going to be down regardless. Even if things were going well, I'm sure the numbers will be lower than they have been in the past. I was on the fence about going. But I would certainly be looking to go in 2020. Gert, our friend, says, very smart move of Motion VFX to make their plugins available for digital. DaVinci Resolve. Eric says no NAB. He says no NAB. That's what I'm thinking too. They haven't announced that it's canceled yet, but I think that's coming. I unfortunately, because I like them, no NAB. I'm going to pull that down a little bit. There we go. So I think that's coming, no NAB. I think the Creative Summit will probably be virtual this year, which they did a great job last year. I wish it was in person, but not at the risk of people's health. That's not what I would suggest, and I think they've reconsidered that and figured that out. So let me just check Twitter, see if there's anything going on in Final Cut Pro. Even the next spring is questionable. Why do you think next spring? That's 7, 8 months from now. Like I said, now the situation is not as bad, not nearly as bad as it was last year at this time. We're in much, much better shape than we were. I think 6 months from now, we're going to have a better handle on things even more so. I don't here, Eric. This is why I think next spring. I'm not that big a fan of NAB in the fall. First off, you have IBC. They switched from October to December. They're going to be in person supposedly, and you also have the Creative Summit. So having those two events ganged up on each other, one after the other, I don't like that. I'd much rather have NAB in the spring. So I'm thinking NAB survives by canceling this one in the fall. I'm not saying that they will 100%. I'm saying, and I wish them success, but I'm just saying I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't see how it can logistically. I think the numbers are going to be too low to support it. I hope it happens in post-production world too. I'm scheduled as a volunteer. So that's the thing. Post-production world, Future Media Conferences came out a few weeks ago and said they have 108 in-person events at NAB. I don't see that happening. I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I was encouraged at that point. We had 3 months before NAB, and I was looking and said, wow, that's pretty cool. So I know that Frame.io is not coming to NAB. Blackmagic has been hit or miss. I've seen some things that show them, and then they're not listed as the exhibitor. So they're on one of the floor plans that I saw, but they're not listed as a major exhibitor. So, Avid's not going. Apple, I don't think Apple's going to be going. I don't think Apple was ever scheduled to be going. That's my opinion. Most COVID experts I've heard say 23 will be better. I'll go with them. Of course it'll be better. I hope 23 will be better, but 22 will be better too. 21 was better than 2020. 22 will be better than 21. 23 will be better than 22. Of course. But I'm not staying in my house until 2023. I'm not staying in my house for 2 years. I didn't stay in my house in 2020. I went outside to outside events, and I obeyed whatever the rules were. They said to wear masks. If I went to a restaurant or something, I did. That's fine. I respect that. But outside events, no. I didn't wear any masks. Even crowded ones. I filmed outside, kept away from people, and I didn't wear a mask, and I'm not going to do that when I go outside for the most part. I just filmed an event this last week. But anyway, I don't want to talk about COVID. This is Final Cut Pro TV. This is what we're going to talk about. You guys get enough of that other nonsense, depending on which news source you watch. I don't watch any of them. I don't trust any of the news sources. They're just a bunch of nonsense. All they want to make is controversy and bunch of crap. So I get my news from Twitter. I'll just watch headlines there, and if I see something interesting, I'll click on a link. All right, so that's about it. What do you think? Who else thinks NAB? NAB, thumbs up. NAB, thumbs down. Yes, they're going to have it. No, they're not going to have it. It depends on how they plan to let people in. Not everyone is protected, tested, used, discussions everywhere. As long as that is not changing, people will continue to spread the virus and it mutates. Same as any other virus, Gert. Same as any other virus. Any other sicknesses? Yeah, there are huge discussions everywhere. It mutates. I think with the vaccinations, I think they're doing a good job. Final Cut Pro News can be spread online. We don't need NAB or IBC for that. That's correct, but we need the Creative Summit. Final Cut Pro News, of course. But you can't get up in the morning, walk across the courtyard, sit down and have a coffee and a bagel with Steve Martin, my friends, Chris Fenwick, which I did at the Creative Summit, Philip Hodgetts, Gregory Clark, Serena Catania. You can't do that in person like you can and like we did in 2019. Yes, I'm hoping NAB will springtime 2020. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, obviously things will can change, but I expect 2022 to be better than 2021. 2021 is better than 2022. Even when COVID fades, trade shows will have a hard time, I think. We're really good at remote shows, but they're not the same, Eric. I understand what you're saying. It's not the same. It's not the same. Being in person, this is what I want to get back to. I don't care if they scale down and people test them the first year. And I'm not even talking about, I mean, NAB is a very wide variety of vendors and stuff there, and I really enjoy that. But the Creative Summit is only 100 to 150 people, and it's concentrated Final Cut Pro stuff, motion stuff, concentrated the whole weekend. Everybody stays in the same hotel. Everybody goes out to eat at restaurants. Everybody gets up in the morning and has coffee and bagels. Not the same virtually. It's just not. I mean that's obvious. I'm not telling you anything that's not obvious. I understand. But I'm not even talking about NAB as much, but I don't think I think NAB will resume once things are more normal. I mean, I used to go see bands. I go out to restaurants. I don't do any of that stuff right now. Am I going to not go see bands? And am I not going to go to restaurants in the future? No, I am going to. I am going to, absolutely. Ryan Wellborn says it's not just about Vegas. If gear can get out of places like Southeast Asia, NAB is not going down. So, Ryan, why do you think they've scheduled NAB? And there's still, NAB is still scheduled. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I absolutely agree. But look, it's so on. Here. This is what the official NAB site says. I don't think it's going to happen because things didn't get better like perhaps they thought they were going to. But it's still, at this point, today, August the 5th, it's still scheduled to go on. I expect to see a cancellation, postponement till spring 2022, or switching over, maybe a combination of canceling the live event and just doing some virtual stuff. I can see that. Yeah, I understand you meant can't. Absolutely. It's complicated. NAB is much more complicated. The Final Cut Pro Creative Summit is much smaller, but it's concentrated Final Cut Pro stuff, which is the only reason I would go to NAB. If NAB was happening and we weren't having a surge, but there was no Final Cut Pro potential Final Cut Pro news, I would think twice about going. 2019 was good. 2017 and 2018 were fantastic because the Final Cut Pro team officially presented at NAB in the Convention Center. 2019 was fantastic because LumaForge took over the Super Meet and had some Final Cut Pro stuff there. They took over and had a great event. They had a private dinner event at the Convention Center somewhere a couple blocks away. Even though Apple didn't officially present at 2019, Apple did present at LumaFusion's Faster Together stage. Okay, they did present there. So there was Final Cut Pro stuff going on. Michael Cioni was at Frame.io talking about Final Cut. So there was Final Cut Pro stuff at NAB in 2019, even though there wasn't an official Apple Final Cut Pro team presentation. But anyway, I think everybody agrees that NAB is probably not going to happen. I don't think they've said it yet, but I expect that announcement to be forthcoming. Does anybody think NAB is going to go on this year? Does anybody think that's going to be happening? I don't think so. I just don't think so. Maybe somebody here thinks that it's going to be happening. Hey, yeah, this is Richard. Yes. Oh, is that right? You know that officially. You know that officially about NAB? We're live on the air, by the way. Final Cut Pro TV Live. So you know officially that's what's going to happen to NAB. And you don't want me to say anything now. Okay. I won't say anything, but okay, I won't say anything. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. But don't forget, we're waiting for Final Cut Pro 10.6 and a 16-inch Apple Silicon Mac Pro this fall. We want to buy. I have money waiting. I have money right here waiting for it. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Okay, I heard about NAB. I can't say anything. I can't say anything about it. Garrett says, nope. I don't think anybody would be saying yes at this point. I don't think anybody would be saying that. I posted on Twitter yesterday that I didn't think it was going to happen, and I figured I'd come on today and talk about it. So there you go. What are you going to do? We will get through this somehow. Well, we will. We've been getting through it so far. Anything else? What do you think about the summit? The summit is, so there's three levels of the FCP Summit. Number one is in person. Absolutely the best. Absolutely the best. Meeting people, having breakfast, having lunch and dinners with people, Final Cut Pro people, concentrated Final Cut Pro stuff for days and days and days. Everybody stays in the same hotel. Everybody eats at the same restaurants. Fantastic. Number one is in person. Number two is virtual. A little bit, it's a step down, but it's still very good because number three is no summit at all. I don't want that. The virtual one last year was very well done, very well. I attended a lot of the sessions and jumped into some of those rooms and stuff, but it's still a step down from having the live event. But I completely understand that. All right, everyone, if you have nothing else to say at this point, I'm going to head out of here. I'll be back on if there's any Final Cut Pro news happening anywhere. So let me see. We did get good. We did get Facebook comments. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So as far as the VFX or what is it coming to resolve? I forget which company it was. FX Factory or Motion VFX. I forget. One of them coming to resolve. I think that's really good. You know, if something happened in Final Cut, I'm not saying this is going to happen because I think it's not going to happen. I'm a big proponent of Final Cut, and I have eternal faith. Ryan says, take care, Richard. You too, Ryan. I sure appreciate you dropping in today. If Final Cut Pro 10.6 is not a huge, giant update, I will be using Blackmagic Resolve more than if Final Cut Pro Motion VFX, he says. Okay. Motion VFX has started doing plugins for DaVinci Resolve. I think that's fantastic. I like DaVinci Resolve a lot. I like it a lot. So if Final Cut Pro 10.6 is disappointing, I mean, 10.5 was very disappointing. Everybody's waiting for 10.5. 10.4 was out over 3 years ago, and 10.5 came along and was like this big. Very disappointing. If 10.6, I don't expect that. I expect 10.6 to be a huge, huge update. If for some reason it's not, I'm just going to spend more time with DaVinci Resolve, more than I already do. The way I learn DaVinci Resolve is I make myself do a complete project in it. It's easy to try to cheat to go back to Final Cut, but I make myself stay in DaVinci Resolve and get through I have a few lifelines that I use. Tony Gallardo, he's a DaVinci Resolve guy. If I get stuck on something, I said, hey, does this work? Does this work? How do you do this? And he'll help me out. But anyway, Motion VFX goes a DaVinci Resolve. Why not? Why not? It's better than going Windows. That's for sure. All right, everyone, I'm going to get on out of here. Don't forget, we are... Oh, here we go. I forgot this. YouTube.com, Richard Taylor. Pull that up there. Don't forget that. Let me see. Do I have any other of those? You know, it's weird. I always forget. So YouTube.com, Richard Taylor TV is where you want to go to keep track of everything that's going on in the Final Cut Pro world. I will be back. Gert says, one more comment. I still love using libraries. I do too. I like libraries in Final Cut. Hope everybody has a good rest of the summer, is safe. We're heading into the fall here in the U.S. on the East Coast. It's August the 5th. September, fall is about a little over, it's like 6 weeks away. So that'll be good. September will be the new iPhone, which I'll be getting. Anyway, everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name is Richard Taylor, as you know, Richard Taylor. Final Cut Pro. Don't forget Final Cut Pro Radio. Wes Plate is on the latest podcast of Final Cut Pro Radio. Great episode. He had a lot to say. Wes was in Apple until last April. He talks about some things that happened inside, perhaps just generically, on the podcast. FCPradio.com. Don't forget. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. I will talk to you later. Thanks for stopping by. We have one more comment. DaVinci Resolve does not create libraries. Yes, I know that. Thanks, Gert. Thanks a lot for